Hey guys, it's Dr. Nate here, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we put on braces. So luckily we had Daisy and she was kind enough to allow us to film everything. So you're going to see everything from the initial putting them on, from putting on the wire, everything that has to do with putting on braces. So let's go, let's check it out. Alright guys, so Dr. Nate here. I'm going to narrate kind of what's going on so you know exactly how we're doing the process here at our office. And Daisy has already had her panoramic and cephalometric x-rays taken at her initial consult. So that's already been done. The next phase of records is picture taking. So if you know anything or if you've ever worked with me pretty much throughout my whole career, you know that picture taking is very important, and I'm very, very particular about pictures. I could probably do, actually I may actually do this later, a whole session just on picture taking because I think it is vital. It's great for me because I want to see the before and after, see how we're treating the patients, making sure the treatment plan went well, especially when we're done with it. But it's also great for the patients. You know, the patients want to see before and after. That's probably one of the biggest things that they want to see. They love seeing the before and after pictures. I actually still to this day have my before pictures from when I started braces a long time ago. So I love seeing the progression. So that's why we need to take super high quality pictures. If your orthodontist is not taking these type of pictures, I don't know what's going on, because this is vital. I can't emphasize this enough. All my patients or all my staff know this. So now I just kind of showed you some of the tools that we use. And Stephanie, who is an amazing assistant, is working on Daisy right now. And she is putting this little device in there just to kind of keep the tongue and cheeks and everything away from the teeth. The whole goal of this is to make sure no saliva gets on the teeth. So you can see Stephanie's doing a great job. She's going to do this kind of like question mark shaped shape, I guess, on this vacuum suction here. And this is just a way that the patient or Daisy can bite down on this suction so she's comfortable, but also that no saliva gets in the way. So no saliva is getting on the teeth, because if any saliva gets on the teeth, then the brackets will not bond to the tooth. So sometimes you'll see it, the bracket comes off like the next day. And a lot of the times it's because saliva got on the tooth, and so the bracket never properly bonded to that actual tooth. So now we got isolation. Steph is putting on this blue stuff. What is the blue stuff? The blue stuff is what we call etch, and this is phosphoric acid, and this just gets a small, I guess it roughens the tooth just a little bit, so that we are able to have a little more of a rough surface. Because normally, naturally, our teeth are really smooth. If you got your cleaning, the teeth are actually really smooth, and it's really hard to bond anything to a smooth surface. And you know this if you're basically trying to bond anything. So you know that if it's a very, very smooth surface, it is next to impossible to have anything stick to it. So all we're doing with this bond is we are etching the surface to make it so that the brackets stick better. And whenever we come at people with this blue glue, with that blue needle looking thing, they think it's a needle, but I make sure to tell everybody that with braces, there's no drilling, there's no filling, there's no needles, nothing like that. All we do is we kind of put on different glues and different shampoos is what I call it. But here I'm going to get a little bit more technical. So yes, so this is the etch that Steph is putting on. Actually, now she's taking it off. So she's taking it off with a high suction to make sure that no etch obviously goes down your throat, because we want to suction all of this stuff up into the suction. And she is now going to make sure that it is dry. And this is, I think, one of the most important steps. And I emphasize this to all of our assistants, that when you're drying the teeth, and it's going to be really hard to see this in this video, but when you're drying the teeth, you want to see this kind of like frosty white appearance on the teeth. And what that means is the etch did its job. So if the teeth still look, shiny and basically look like how they were before, then something happened, something didn't work. Maybe there's a restoration on that tooth, maybe that tooth had a crown and we just didn't see it, maybe it has a filling, we couldn't tell before. But every single tooth should have this kind of frosty white appearance. If it doesn't have that, the bracket will not hold. And that's why when I'm training people, I always stop them at this step and I look at every single tooth. I want to make sure every single tooth has that white frosty appearance, just because it helps, it makes sure that the teeth or the brackets bond to that tooth. So now what Steph is doing after we've etched the tooth, she's putting on something called bond. And bond is just kind of like a more liquidy form of the composite or the glue that we're going to put on the brackets. So this gets into all those little small etched crevices that we just put in the tooth, and this is going to help basically get a better strength of bond in between the tooth and the bracket. So she, like the etch, is putting it on every single tooth we're going to put a bracket on. And Steph has been with us for a while. She's amazing. She's making sure everything is properly isolated, and she is doing a great job of putting on enough bond, but not too much where it's just kind of all over the place. And sometimes we see this with newer assistants where they're just putting bond and etch and all this stuff all over the place, but that is not good. You just want to put enough on just so it's on the surface of the tooth. If you put too much on, this bond is actually going to weaken the actual bond in between the bracket and the tooth. So it's very important just to have that thin layer. And then what Steph is doing, and what we do all the time, is she's kind of blowing the bond just to put a thin layer, because you don't want to have too much on there. Once you put the bond on, we're going to have this light, and the light is going to cure the bond. And this curing is also another important step, and this will strengthen the bond. I think it's an extra like 20%. So if you don't cure it, you're actually not going to have as strong of a bond as if you cure it on right now. So now just this review. We put on the etch and we wash it off, make sure it's with that frosty white appearance. We put it on the bond, put it on that nice thin layer. She actually went over it with air to make sure the layer of bond is really thin. She cured it, and we are already on to putting on the braces. So that is how fast these things are going. This is obviously not super real time, but this whole process took us, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It's really quick. So she is going one by one. She's going back and forth. She's putting on the composite, is what we call it, or the glue, onto the brackets, and then putting it onto each individual tooth. So that's how we do it at this office. There's some offices that are slightly different, but basically they're all the same. We're putting on the brackets on every single tooth. Once the brackets are on, then I will come in, or the orthodontist will come in, and they're going to make sure that the brackets are in the right place. So the assistant's job is to make sure their brackets are on there. They've done the etching, they've done the bonding, they make sure the teeth are isolated, and then the orthodontist comes in to make sure they're in the right place. I've said this in previous videos, but I know I've already said this before, but I think this is actually one of the most important parts. Because if you get the bracket in the right place, treatment goes very smoothly. If you don't, treatment goes very poorly. So putting on brackets in the right place is vital. If they're in the right place, life is just so much easier. If they're not in the right place, you're doing like 1,000 bends at the end of treatment, or you may need to reposition the brackets, or may need to do all this other stuff. So like I said, really makes life a whole lot easier just putting them, or just making sure that they're in the right place. So this order is actually a little bit different, and if I was training my assistants, they would know that this is a little bit different. I typically don't put on the braces. I'm kind of coming in after. This is a little bit different because we're doing some filming, and just because I decided, hey, what the heck, why not? But you can see what I'm doing. I'm going back and forth. I'm putting the braces on. I'm making sure when I put the composite on the bracket that I kind of push the composite in a little bit, so that it gets basically fused to the bracket a little bit more. So when I put the bracket on the tooth, it's just going to stick a little bit better. And I know I kind of jumped over it, but you can kind of see there when I initially put the bracket on the tooth, the bracket's not in the right place. It's kind of all over the place, and we reposition it later. So then we go, and I just light cured it a little bit. Now we're suctioning up some of the saliva, and when we're curing it 3 seconds each side and making sure it's on there really good. But Daisy is done. We're gonna lift her up. We let her relax a little bit. She's gonna feel all sorts of weird. We let her go rinse out so she can kind of get all that stuff out of her mouth. Now it's back to Steph. She is putting on the wire, and this is the fun part. We get to kind of put a little bit of pressure on the teeth. The wire's a thing that is doing the movement of the teeth. But once again, there shouldn't be really any discomfort. People kind of freak out at this point, and then they get it done and they're like, oh, there's nothing really, it doesn't hurt. It's just some pressure. And that's what I tell people all the time. When you're at our office, it's just pressure. You don't feel the discomfort yet. The discomfort doesn't happen until, maybe that night and the next few nights. But at the office, it just feels like pressure. And people are always surprised by that. They're like, oh, putting on braces, this whole process is so easy. And we're done. That was it. I mean, the whole process, even though I know we did some cutting in and out, took maybe 10 minutes, really quick. Now we go on to the informational stage. And this is where Steph is going to explain to Daisy how important it is to keep her braces clean. And we emphasize this like crazy with every single one of our patients. We give them pamphlets, we give them starter kits, because we want to make sure they keep care of their braces. If they keep care of their braces, if they don't break brackets, if they're brushing properly, if they're flossing properly, if they are comfortable, treatment goes so much faster, so much better. If patients aren't aware and they're breaking brackets, they're eating hard, sticky, chewy things, they're not brushing, they're not flossing properly, then everything's harder. It's harder for us, it's harder for them, it's harder on the patients, it's harder on the parents. It's just more and more difficult. So we take our time with this. Steph is going to show Daisy the differences between healthy looking teeth and unhealthy looking teeth. And you can't quite see it on this pamphlet, but we show that there's yellow and brown and nasty white scars that happen on your teeth if you don't brush and floss properly. And we see that all the time, and it's really unfortunate because if you get those scars on your teeth, they never go away. And that is why we emphasize this so much. We don't give away mouthwash at our office, but if we did, it would be some sort of mouthwash with fluoride in it. Like ACT mouthwash was a mouthwash I used back in the day. I think that's a great product. I'm sure there's tons of other available, but we're just doing everything we can to make sure their teeth are nice and clean, their gums are nice and clean, so that they don't get any of these white or brown scars or yellow scars on their teeth as well, because those, like I said, never come off. The other thing that Steph already went through is she showed Daisy the wax and all these little smaller toothbrushes just to make sure that she can kind of get in these little areas, and the wax help for any kind of irritation you might get from the braces. Now she's going over what you can and can't eat. So I always say you don't eat the hard, sticky, chewy stuff, because that stuff will break off the braces, and breaking off the braces once or twice, not the end of the world. Breaking off braces more than that really, really, really prolongs treatment. So that is not good. So we have explained everything. She is feeling confident. She's feeling excited. Daisy is just really excited to get her braces on, and we are just really happy that she allowed us to film this whole treatment. So once again, I'm sure Daisy's going to be watching this. Thank you so much for this. And that is how we put on braces at our offices. All right, guys, there you have it. You saw everything. You saw us do the initial etching, putting on braces, putting on the colors, taking pictures. That is how braces are done. So thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please subscribe, and we will talk to you guys really soon.